Well, because the past shouldn't keep you up at night. Welcome to Whispers of History, where each tale is a soft footstep through forgotten streets and faded traditions. Tonight, we drift into the quiet corners of Viking life. Not the battles, not the longships, but something much warmer, quieter, and surprisingly up in the ceiling. So fluff your pillow, silence the world, and listen close. Remember to gently like, subscribe, and comment your local time and location. We love seeing how far our sleepy village reaches. Now let's ease into tonight's journey. You wake beneath a low, slanted roof, the wood beams above stained dark by smoke and time. The walls breathe quietly around you, thick with turf and soil. Outside, there's the occasional grunt of a pig or the soft of wind through bundled straw, but in here the world is muffled. Cozy, intentionally so. Though the air carries a mixture of wood smoke, wool grease, and old bread, not unpleasant, just deeply lived in. Somewhere above you something shifts, you blink. Yes, there's definitely movement in the rafters. Oh, but let's not panic. You're in a Viking longhouse, not the pillaging type. This is the homestead. Less axe, more oatmeal, and up in those beams, that would be the cradle. Yes, the baby is in the ceiling. This isn't because Vikings hated bobbies, though midnight crying did test their battle-hardened patience. It's because warmth rises and the roof, just under the thatch, was the warmest place in the house. Cradles were often tucked up there, suspended from beams, swaying gently with every breeze or footstep. It's genius, really, like an early version of the heated blanket. That also rocked itself. You walk the packed earth floor now, toes brushing scattered straw. A woman in woolen skirts pours gruel into a bowl. She nods to you like you've always been here. You take your place on the bench, sitting low to avoid the smoky cloud that forever hovers just under the thatch. The longhouse is one room shared by everyone: granny, goat, toddler, dad. Privacy is a rumor. Intimacy is routine. A couple of chickens eyeball you from under the table. Outside, the wind howls off the fjord, but in here it's warm. Dank but warm. Oh, here's your historical fact for tonight. The Viking longhouses often had no chimney. The smoke from the central hearth rose and hovered, slowly leaking through the thatch. Not efficient, but the soot helped preserve the wood beams. Every cough was a contribution to architecture. And now for a delightfully weird tidbit. Sometimes families used raven feathers mixed with mud as insulation between the wall layers. Soft, warm, slightly ominous. As you nibble on yesterday's bread, your eyes drift back to the cradle in the ceiling. The baby's still asleep, rocking slightly. Lucky kid. Of course, historians still debate whether all homes used roof cradles or if this was more common in colder northern regions. Evidence is scattered. Literally, most longhouses have crumbled into the dirt they were built from. Still, the quiet ingenuity of a rooftop nursery tells you more about the Viking soul than 100 sagas of conquest. And you'll make it about 20 more minutes before you're ready to climb into that cradle yourself. You step out of the longhouse and into a crunch of frost. The air is sharp, the sort that wakes the lungs whether they agree or not. But you notice something odd. The roof of the house you look up has tiny puffs of cloth stuck in it, not thatched, not fur, baby bonnets. No, it's wool hanging to dry. The roof isn't just a lid, it's a storage unit, a clothes line, and depending on the season, a mild fire hazard. You walk slowly through the cluster of homes. Everything is low, thick, and hunkered down like a community waiting out a very long snowstorm, which is accurate. Children race barefoot, their feet leather tough, yelling about fish bones or imaginary trolls. One of them hands you a carved wooden button. It smells like turnips. You pocket it, that's just what you do now. In the distance, you see a loom through an open doorway, its great wooden frame nearly as tall as the house itself. A woman pulls weft through warp in a slow, deliberate rhythm. It's hypnotic, ancient. She hums as she works, something between a lullaby and a warning. Oh, here's your next historical fact. The textile weaving was primarily women's work, and it was vital. Viking women spun wool, wove fabric, and dyed it with everything from onion skins to iron rust. Without them, there'd be no tunics, no sails, no blankets. A society dressed by its women in layers of practicality and color. Now for a strange detail you didn't ask for. The Vikings sometimes combed sheep before shearing them, not to be gentle, though that's sweet, but because uncombed fleece tangled the loom, and tangled looms meant curses, loud ones. You follow a path that isn't really a path, just a string of muddy footprints pressed into earth too tired to resist. It winds past bundled haystacks that lean like sleepy elders, and a couple of sheep eyeing you with the suspicion of creatures who know there'll be dinner soon. Their breath makes little clouds in the cold air. Yours does too. Your boots squelch softly. You imagine they once belonged to someone else. Maybe 3 someone else's. Vikings passed things down until they disappeared or until a goat ate them. The village isn't large, just a scattering of homes, a central hearth ring, and the remains of a wooden fence that's lost most of its will to fence. You stop near the fire pit. The flames are small, flickering like they're trying not to be noticed. Around it, people huddle with the practiced closeness of those who've forgotten what personal space feels like. You take a seat on a carved log, the wood worn to a polish from hundreds of cloaked backsides. Someone offers you a chunk of hard cheese. You accept it out of politeness and curiosity. It tastes like cold regret. Oh, good, isn't it? The woman beside you grins. So you nod, chewing carefully. Here's something most people don't know. The Viking cheese wasn't just food, it was currency, dowry, even tribute. Made mostly from goat or sheep milk, it was dense, dry, and had the shelf life of a grudge. You could take it on voyages, bury it in the ground, or apparently survive on it exclusively during a particularly uninspired winter. An old man with a crooked nose starts telling a story about the god Thor mistaking a giant for a drinking horn. You try to follow, but your brain is busy trying to digest the cheese. Still, you catch the rhythm of it. the soft, rolling pattern of stories that are half truth, half lesson, and fully comforting. Now for your cultural oddity of the evenings. Some Viking children were given nicknames based on their habits before they got their proper names, like Snores in Hay or Crawls Toward Fire. It was a sort of temporary label until a more serious naming ceremony took place, which honestly feels very emotionally accurate for toddlers. You look up, the sky is a flat iron plate smeared with soft gray clouds. Somewhere in that sky the northern lights wait. But not tonight. Tonight belongs to firelight, wet wool, and the creaking wood of a community held together by shared weather and shared bread. You toss your cheese rind into the fire and watch it sizzle. The baby above you, yes, another cradle in the beams of the communal hall, gives a tiny snore. Historians still debate, says the man across from you almost casually, whether these longhouse bobbies developed different sleep patterns from modern ones, since they were rocked by smoke and noise all day. You nod as if this is a normal fireside thought, but it sticks with you. Imagine sleeping through soup boiling, sheep bleating, and your grandma loudly reciting burial chants. Then again, you're half asleep now, aren't you? Morning comes without much fanfare. Just a gradual shift from darkness to dimness, like someone turned up the candlelight of the sky a notch. No roosters here. Just the wet snort of a cow and the soft groan of someone discovering their back still exists. You walk back toward the longhouse with your arms tucked against your sides. Your cloak smells faintly of smoke and salt and someone else's dog. A few children are already up, chasing each other with sticks, possibly pretending to be gods or wolves. It's hard to tell. Now you pass a man rubbing fish guts into his boots. He catches your look. Waterproofing, he says simply. You nod, as one does when encountering fish gut footwear before breakfast. You return to the longhouse just in time to catch the tail end of morning chores, which, in Viking terms, means hauling buckets of water from a stream that doesn't particularly want to be helpful, and feeding animals who act like you owe them something. You offer a chicken a nod of mutual respect. It ignores you. It's inside, the hearth has been stirred back to life. Smoke curls upward into the dark ceiling like it's remembering how to rise. You notice a girl tending to the fire with care, methodical, deliberate. She hums the same bone-deep tune you heard yesterday. A melody older than most nations. Now today's historical gem is this. The Vikings didn't eat with forks. They used knives, spoons, and fingers. Forks existed but were rare and mostly ceremonial or used by outsiders. Which means as you chew your oat cakes this morning with your hands, you are technically dining like royalty. Filthy royalty, but royalty nonetheless. So someone hands you a cup of ale, morning ale, because in this world, alcohol is sometimes safer than water. It's thin, a little sour, and strangely comforting. Like drinking a memory you didn't know you had. And here's something weird. The Vikings believed that bad smells could ward off disease and evil spirits. So if your cloak stank, your boots reeked, and your beard had a bit of dried broth in it, congratulations, you were spiritually fortified. Scented hygiene was for monks and funerals. You sit back against a wooden post. The baby in the roof is awake now, blinking at the smoke as if trying to solve a riddle. You wave. The baby blinks again, mutual understanding achieved. As across the room, a young boy is braiding rope. Tight, deliberate knots, each one exactly like the last. He's being trained to make netting for the next fishing trip, which is both noble and deeply dull. You watch for a while, admiring the consistency of boredom. A dog flops beside you, tail thumping once. He smells like moss and secrets. You accept his presence as part of the scenery. Historians still argue, mutters the elder sitting by the door, whether Viking dogs were pets, workers, or just tolerated freeloaders. You glance at the dog, he lifts one eyebrow. You decide it doesn't matter, he's warm. That's all anyone really wants around here. As outside, the day is waking up. Clouds hang low, and somewhere across the cold field, someone is yelling about turnips. You sigh contentedly. And inside, the cradle rocks. And outside, the wool dries. And you're in exactly the right kind of nowheres. You pause beside a house with carved dragon heads perched on the roof's peak. They're decorative, sure, but also believed to scare away bad spirits and nosy neighbors, like an early Norse version of a no solicitors sign. And inside this house, someone is boiling fish. You pretend not to notice. The smell notices you. A tall man steps out, wiping his hands on a wool apron. He nods. Long night, he says. You nod back. Long house, you whisper. The two of you share a moment of silence, just long enough to feel like old friends or passing ghosts. Historians still wonder how much of daily Viking life was centered around communal effort, how much was neighborly, and how much was necessity. Some claim villages operated like cooperative hives. Others think people just tolerated each other because the winters were too long for petty feuds. You stroll onward. The wind's calmer now, someone playing a bone flute near the fire pit. The tune floats above the rooftops and then disappears like everything eventually does here. Above you, another cradle sways. Oh yes, you're definitely getting one of those. You stand outside again, tracing the same steps from earlier but seeing them differently now. There's a rhythm to the village, like it breathes with you. Nothing is rushed, yet everything gets done. A bowl is carved, a roof patched, a goat shouted at. Viking life isn't glamorous, but it has excellent time management. The wind has softened, still cold but less opinionated. You follow the line of longhouses down toward the edge of the settlement where the land slouches into marsh. There you find something unexpected. A rib. Half finished, ribs exposed, resting on timber blocks like a sleeping animal mid-molt. Two men stand beside it, one older, one still growing into his beard. They argue gently about angles and joints, occasionally stopping to chew dried cod as if it helps them measure better. You pause to watch. The older man notices, waves a hand, then goes back to chiseling. Here's your historical anchor for today. The Vikings built their ships using a technique called clinker building, where wooden planks overlapped like fish scales. This made them light, fast, and surprisingly flexible. These boats could slice through rivers, hug coastlines, or cross oceans, and still be dragged across land when necessary. Which sounds heroic until you realize someone had to drag them across land. The younger man offers you a tool to hold, a rounded iron chisel that fits neatly in your palm. It feels warm, like it's been used for years and has absorbed the frustrations and victories of every plank it's shaped. You hand it back without a word. There's something sacred here. A little girl plays near the ship's prow, placing carved animal bones in a circle. You ask what she's doing. "Making sure it doesn't sink," she says without looking up. And that's your strange cultural tidbit. Some Viking children were taught informal rituals to bless projects. Not necessarily religious, just traditions that made them feel involved and made the adults slightly less nervous. It was half play, half protection, and no one dared skip them. Ever seen a father pretend not to believe in a child's ritual but still wait for it to finish before launching a boat? It's adorable. The girl finishes, stands, and touches the ship's hull like she's patting a sleeping ox. Then she runs off, scarf trailing behind her like a banner. You envy her confidence. You walk along the shore. It's not dramatic, just a slip of damp land that meets water in a shrug. A couple of older women are digging into the mud with practiced determination. They greet you with a smile, then go back to gathering seaweed. One turns and says, "Good for soup, good for wounds." You nod, of course, soup and wounds, two pillars of Norse life. Here's your sentence of scholarly debate. Historians still discuss how much seaweed factored into Viking diets, especially inland. Some say it was common and clever. Others think it was mostly a coastal resource and used medicinally. Either way, someone clearly got excited about boiling kelp. You crouch to touch the wet, rubbery fronds. They're cold and oddly tender, like something halfway between a vegetable and a secret. A gull cries overhead. You look up and notice the skies changed again, light thinning into silver mist, shadows stretching longer. Not quite evening, but not morning anymore either. The time blurs here, the hours are soft. You sit on a driftwood log, let your fingers rest in the mud and breathe in the salt. It smells like endings and beginnings, or maybe just lunch. Back at the ship, the cradle of ribs grows one plank stronger. You don't move for a while, no one asks you to. By the time you return to the heart of the village, smoke is rising in polite ribbons from every roof. It curls into the cold air like shy conversation. It's inside the communal longhouse, people are gathering again. A hush falls as someone lights the main hearth. A mother settles near the fire with a spinning spindle in hand, long wool thread trailing from her lap like a slow-drawn thought. You sit nearby, hands wrapped around a warm bowl of something thick and brown. It tastes like yesterday and barley. Comfort food, 9th century edition. Across from you, someone begins to hum. Another joins in, then another. It's not a song exactly, more like a vibration everyone recognizes. As a woman stands. Her cloak is red, her hair braided into a crown. She walks slowly to the center of the hall, and the room lines in without moving. She begins to speak. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just with the weight of someone carrying something old and careful. She tells the story of a horse made of ice. Of a man who trapped the sun in a box. Of a winter so long, people forgot the names of their own gods. She pauses between lines like letting bread rise. And here's your historical centerpiece. The Viking oral storytelling was not entertainment, it was education, therapy, timekeeping, and community glue. These tales carried laws, legends, social norms, and grief. Some were based on gods, others on dead uncles. And some were improvised entirely just to quiet a restless child. The stories were currency, and every village had a keeper of them. Now for something a bit weirder. Some sagas were believed to bring bad luck if told out of season. A tale about frost giants in summer, that's just asking for hail. Which meant that timing your bedtime stories was, quite literally, survival strategy. You sip your broth and glance around. Every face is tilted toward the story. Even the dog has turned its ears. You feel a tightness in your chest that isn't sadness or joy, just belonging. And yes, above you in the beams, the baby is still there. Eyes wide this time, as if trying to remember every word for a future retelling. Someone hands the storyteller a bit of honeyed bread at the end. She breaks it in half, gives the other piece to a child beside her. That's how stories are paid for here, with warmth, food, and quiet admiration. As a man leans toward you and murmurs, historians still argue about whether these stories were memorized exactly or allowed to drift, like boats on a lazy river. You nod, either way they arrived. The fire cracks. A toddler begins to snore. A few of the older men lean back, eyes closed, pretending to rest their eyes while secretly waiting for the next tale. No one gets up to leave. The night is young, but the village is already falling inward, folding like a blanket around itself. You wrap your own cloak and close your eyes, just for a moment. The cradle creaks overhead. The wind brushes the doorframe like a visitor who knows it's too early to knock. You fall asleep listening to the past speak softly through warm mouths and smoky air. You wake to the sounds of things not being urgent. That's the nicest way to describe it. No alarms, no buzzing. Just the slow rustle of someone stoking a fire, the occasional snore drifting from under a bearskin, and the faint rustling of wool being folded. The baby in the ceiling is still asleep, or pretending to be, which is respectable. You stretch, stand, and feel the stiffness in your shoulders like a quiet complaint from the past. Every Viking here carries something: tools, baskets, bundles of fish, but mostly they carry time. Time in their spines, in their feet, in their silent agreement to keep moving even when things are cold, wet, and uphill both ways. You walk past a young couple quietly building a frame out of antlers. Not for decoration, for drying fish. You offer a nod. They nod back, eyes full of that wordless, wind-chapped togetherness that comes from being equally tired, equally muddy, and equally in love. As a bit further down, you find something remarkable. A structure separate from the homes, round, low, with thick turf walls and a roof shaped like an overturned bowl. You duck inside. Oh, it's a bathhouse. Warm, smoky, laced with the scent of cedar, ash, and old skin cells. Inside, two women are seated near a hot stone pit, carefully pouring water over rocks that hiss in delight. Welcome to tonight's historical core. The Vikings used sauna-like bathhouses for both hygiene and healing. These structures, often shared by small clusters of families, were warmed with heated stones filled with steam and used for bathing, childbirth, storytelling, and gossip. Not necessarily in that order. Someone offers you a wooden bowl of warm water. You take it gratefully and splash your face. The water smells faintly of juniper. It's cleansing, but also like someone whispered a forest into your pores. Oh, here's the quirky part. Some Viking families kept small sauna spirits carved out of wood near the door, little figures meant to bless the bathhouse. They weren't full gods, just tiny guardians, sort of like rubber ducks with serious responsibilities. You look over and spot one now sitting politely in a niche. It has no face, just a carved spiral where eyes might be. You give it a respectful nod. It does not nod back. The women begin to hum a tune you've never heard but instantly understand. It's the kind of melody that only exists in warm places surrounded by snow. As steam rises, the door creaks open and a grandmotherly figure waddles in. She tosses her fur cloak to the side, plops down on a bench, and begins to tell a story about the time she sneezed so hard she scared a fox off a cliff. You don't ask for context. You just smile. Historians still disagree, she says suddenly, half laughing, about whether the bathhouses were spiritual spaces or just practical ones. I say both. They kept the body warm and the soul from freezing. So you nod, that's exactly what it feels like in here. You sit a while longer, soaking in the warmth, the wisdom, and the soft sound of steam against stone. It's a silence that isn't empty, but full. Like a bowl of something too hot to drink yet, so you just hold it close and let it warm your hands. As eventually you step back out into the cold. The contrast is a little rude. But the sky is soft now, the clouds gentle and low, like a sheepdog herding the afternoon. You head back toward the long house. Though the cradle creaks once, though the door swings quietly shut behind you. The light is lower now, gold dripping into blue. One of those evenings where everything glows like it's been brushed with memory. You hear it before you see it, laughter. but not the high-pitched giggles of children or the bark of a joke. This is older laughter. The kind that bubbles up after a long day of small successes. The kind shared between people who known each other longer than they've known peace. A gathering is forming near the village center. A flat space ringed with low stools, woven blankets, and the occasional log that's pretending to be furniture. A fire pit crackles in the middle and something smells roasted, possibly edible. Now tonight is not a feast. Feasts are rare. Tonight is a meal with company, which is better. You sit among them. Someone offers you a hunk of roasted turnip on a skewer. You accept it with the reverence of someone who's never been so excited to chew something that bland. A man with long braids and fewer teeth than expected stands to make a toast. To no broken tools, he says, raising his cup. To one fewer leak in the roof, adds a woman beside him. To socks that don't itch, says someone in the back. You join in though you don't say anything. It's the spirit that matters. Here's your historical touchstone for this section. The Viking gatherings often included toasting rituals called, where drinks were raised to gods, ancestors, or even recent achievements. These rituals blended pagan customs with practical gratitude. The goal wasn't drunkenness, it was remembrance, though drunkenness occasionally tagged along. Tonight's weird detail. Some toasts were made with animal horns filled with ale, mead, or fermented whey. Horns were harder to set down, so you either drank the whole thing or held it awkwardly for hours. Either way, conversation flowed. A boy runs past, laughing, chased by two dogs and what appears to be a very annoyed chicken. No one stops him. This is part of the rhythm. As across the circle, an old man plays a stringed instrument. Not a harp, not a lyre. Something in between a boxy creature with a whine like wind through bone. He plucks a slow tune that drapes over the group like a blanket. Someone sings, not well, but no one minds. The lyrics are about sailing too far and bringing home a log instead of treasure. Everyone knows the chorus. As the sky darkens, torches are lit. The village becomes a constellation of flickering light and shadows. You lean back on your elbows and stare at the sky. A single star appears, then another. And there finally barely a smear of greens. The northern lights are teasing the edges of the sky. Not dancing, not blazing, just watching. Like the gods peeking in on their children. A girl next to you notices. And they say if you whistle at the lights, they'll come closer, she whispers. You try a soft whistle. No, nothing happens. And maybe tomorrow, she shrugs. You admire her optimisms. The fire pops and sparks fly upward like eager souls. The singing fades. People begin to yawn, stretch, murmur promises of more stories tomorrow. A few begin to drift toward their homes, cloaks tight, boots muddy. So someone hands you a leftover piece of barley cake. You take it even though you're full. It's not about hunger, it's about gesture. And historians still debate, murmurs the old storyteller beside you. Whether Vikings went to sleep early because of the lack of light or just because they were always exhausted. While you smile, you believe in both theories. You rise slowly, body heavy with warmth and barley. You walk back toward the longhouse. The path is lit by torchlight and someone has left dried herbs hanging near the entrance. Lavender, mugwort, maybe just weeds with good branding. Inside, the fire has gone low. A few embers blink in the dark. So you look up. The cradle is empty. But don't worry, the baby is fine. Someone is rocking it now down by the hearth. Wrapped in fur, cooed to sleep with a melody too old to trace. You find your corner, lie down. Pull the wool blanket over you like a seal's. Though the walls creak, the wind hums. And as sleep wraps itself around you, you realize something. You never learned most of their names. But they all knew yours. At least for today. You wake to the smell of smoke. Not fire, just smoke. Soft, gray, and honest. The kind that settles into wood and skin and never truly leaves. It wraps around you like the memory of a warm hand. Above, a wooden beam groans. Below, someone stirs a pot, humming to themselves, utterly unconcerned with time. You've slept on straw, not ideal. But sleep came like it always does in this village, not because you were ready, but because it was simply time. You sit up slowly, joints creaking in chorus with the longhouse frame. There's a plate beside you with half a barley cake and what might once have been cheese. It's unclear how long it's been waiting, but it's polite, so you eat it. Outside, the village yawns. You pull on your cloak and step into the pale morning. The world is quiet in a way that doesn't need explanation. Mist snakes low across the ground, pooling around boots and sheep alike. It makes everything look half-remembered. A man with a limp walks past, carrying a basket of smoked fish. He doesn't say hello, just gives a look that says, "Another day, huh?" You return it. A mutual agreement to keep going. And today you wander east toward the edges of the settlement where the forest begins. Not the deep, myth-tangled forest of epic poems, but a modest one. Trees with scratchy bark. Squirrels who look annoyed to see you. So there's a structure hidden just off the main path. Low, circular, and partly underground, you duck in. It's a workshop. Though the scent hits first, iron, ash, and the ghost of something burned. Tools hang on pegs arranged with care. A blackened hearth sits at the center, its stones scored from years of intense, purposeful heat. And there he is. A blacksmith, bare arms covered in soot, quietly shaping something on the anvil. He doesn't look up, just nods once like he's been expecting you since breakfast. He doesn't speak much. You're not sure if it's preference or principle. You watch in silence as he plunges the metal into the coals, then into a trough of water. Steam rises. He's making nails today, not swords, just nails. That's your historical moment. The Viking blacksmiths were essential not for war but for daily life. They made rivets, hinges, fishing hooks, shears, and plow parts. Every home was held together with pieces of fire-forged practicality. Every boat, every gate, every cradle in the roof. The man wipes his brow, picks up another rod. He's whistling now, soft, tuneless, just a way to keep the rhythm going. And here's a little cultural quirk. Many Viking blacksmiths believed their tools had personalities. Hammers were named, tongs were blessed. Anvils were sometimes buried with their owners as if continuing a partnership into the next world. This was less superstition and more respect. After all, those tools gave form to the world. You trace your fingers along the edge of a finished hinge. It's sturdy, unimpressed by your admiration, but it will hold someone's door through 1,000 storms. Well, the blacksmith finally speaks. Don't touch the blade. Now you look over, there's a small knife cooling near the wall. You hadn't noticed it before. "Oh, bad luck if it's not yours," he says, then turns back to his fire. Historians still argue, he mutters between hammer blows, whether smiths were just craftsmen or part priests, part magicians. The truth is probably both. You leave the workshop a little warmer than when you entered. Your ears still echo with the rhythmic clang of metal meeting stone. It's oddly soothing, like the heartbeat of the village itself. And as you walk back, the mist begins to lift. Slowly, hesitantly, the world reveals itself in soft pieces. The longhouse reappears ahead, smoke curling upward. And from the beams inside, you guessed it, the cradle rocks. Still there, still swinging like a quiet little moon. Today begins with the sound of weaving. It's a soft, repetitive thump like a heartbeat made of wood and patience. It draws you in before you're fully awake. When you open your eyes, you see her, the loom mistress, not old, not young, just somewhere in between where wisdom has settled but energy still flickers. The loom dominates the room, vertical, wide, and oddly majestic. Threads hang down like waterfalls of wool, parted and pulled in steady rhythm. You sit cross-legged nearby, silent, watching. Here's your historical thread for the day. The Viking looms were often upright and weighted at the bottom, with weaving done by hand, thread by thread. Cloth was a massive investment of time, sometimes weeks for just one tunic's worth, which meant fabric was wealth. And the person making it, the architect of civilization. The weaver doesn't speak, but every movement says something. Pull, not tighten, check. She hums an old tune, the kind you don't remember learning, only remembering. She hands you a spindle, it's warm from her palm. You turn it clumsily. The wool catches, breaks, you try again, she doesn't correct you, just lets you fail in peace. It's oddly generous. Here's a delightful fact. Some Viking women dyed their yarn with fermented urine. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Rich yellows, deep greens. And people didn't complain too loudly because those clothes lasted and everything smelled bad anyway. A toddler toddles by, trailing a toy made of sheep bones. You glance around. This room isn't just for weaving, it's a multi-use space. Gossip, planning, healing. Is in the corner, a woman crushes dried herbs in a stone bowl. She hums along with the loom. Now you watch her for a moment, then approach. The stomach remedy, she explains, for the sheep, and the boy not sure which one needs it more. You both laugh, the kind of laugh that doesn't start loud but leaves warmth behind. She points to a shelf lined with pouches. Inside, dried nettle, crushed eggshell, pine resin, yarrow, dried moss. It's a pharmacy disguised as kitchen clutter. And here's your eccentric detail. The Vikings used powdered beaver testicle in certain remedies. For what, you ask? Various things: fevers, fatigue, fertility. The lines between medicine and myth were intentionally blurry. If it worked once, it earned a place on the shelf. You help her mix a salve with thick animal fat. The smell isn't great, but she says it'll soothe burns. You believe her. She places a small dab on your wrist. It cools instantly. Historians still wonder, she says, whether these remedies came from trial and error or were passed down from a deeper tradition. I say both. Every cure starts as a guess. You glance back at the loom. The woman is still weaving. She hasn't paused once. The child is asleep now, nestled in a fur-lined basket. His toy bones rest beside him like small, defeated warriors. The cradle in the rafters is empty again. You don't ask where the baby is, you just hope it's close. Safe. Swaddled in something woven with care and perhaps a little fermented urine. As outside the sun is dipping, late afternoon, golden and low, you step into it like stepping into a memory. Everything is soft, light, gentle. You head toward the outer edge of the village, where fields stretch in quiet waves. Two men are pulling stones from the soil, grumbling, sweating, joking between curses, preparing for planting season. You watch, then join them just for a while. They don't ask why, they just hand you a spade. The work is hard, the earth stubborn, but the rhythm is honest. Move, lift, toss, step. The stones clink together like ideas. You stay until your arms ache, until the sky blushes purple. Then you return slowly. The longhouse glows like a lantern in the fog. Inside, firelight dances. Someone strums a harp made from driftwood and horsehair. You step through the door. And finally, you see the baby again. Cradled in someone's arms close to the fire, rocking gently. Wrapped in something green, possibly urine-dyed, you don't mind. You sit, you exhale. You are held by the quiet. By wool, by ash, by the stories clinging to every corner. Sleep comes soon. But first, you watch the cradle sway one last time. You wake to the clatter of something dropping. A ladle, a bowl, a goat knocking over its own expectations. Hard to say. You're warm, though, still wrapped in a wool blanket, your cheek against a cushion that smells like herbs and wood smoke. Someone stirred the fire. The embers glow like quiet intentions. You sit up slowly. Today feels different. Not rushed, nothing is ever rushed here but purposeful. Like the village is bracing for something mildly interesting. Not a raid, not a storm, something smaller but still notable. You wander outside, rubbing sleep from your eyes with the back of your hand like a child who's been handed too many dreams. As at the edge of the village, just before the forest begins again, you see people gathering. Women with wide skirts, men with narrow patience, children hopping like birds on cold feet. They're building a thing, not a house, not a boat, something round, wooden, decorated with painted shields and carved dragon faces that aren't quite frightening, just dramatic. It's a ceremonial cart, and on it rests a mound of blankets, furs, and a person. And an older man lying peacefully with his hands on his chest, not asleep, not alive. You've arrived at a Viking funeral. Here's today's quiet historical center. Not all Viking funerals involved fire and boats. Many were land burials wrapped in belongings and symbolism. A few involved ships, yes, but most included modest carts, mounds of stones, and a long walk to a burial site. Sometimes cremated, sometimes buried whole, but always returned to the earth or sea with gravity and care. You stand back, no one tells you to move. You're part of the village now, however temporarily. Someone is singing, not a hymn, not mournful. It sounds more like a travel song. A send-off. The kind you'd hum while walking someone to the edge of the world and trusting they'd know the rest of the way. As a few people place things into the furs beside the old man's body, a comb, a knife, a small bowl of oats. A child adds a carved figurine. Someone else tucks in a pair of worn boots. Here's your strange detail. It wasn't uncommon to bury the dead with food, sometimes a full meal. It wasn't just about feeding the spirit in the next world. It was about comfort, hospitality. Vikings fed their dead like they were sending them on a long, cold trip. The cart begins to move, slowly, pulled by two oxen who seem both bored and reverent. You follow. No one speaks loudly. Just a soft murmur of feet against dirt, a few coughs, the occasional sneeze from someone with a spiritual allergy to solemnity. You walk through the misty trees, branches overhead lacing together like old fingers. The air is damp with memory. Eventually, the group stops at a clearing. A burial mound waits, partly dug, ringed with stones. Someone lights a torch. Someone else says a few words, the kind that don't need to be shouted to be believed. Then, with aching grace, they lower the man into the earth. Though the silence that follows isn't heavy, it's soft, respectful, tired. You place a small rock beside the grave. It's what people are doing. There's no rule, you just do it. Someone weeps gently. Someone else starts talking about the man's legendary turnip soup. The laughter and sorrow mingle like two old relatives forced to share a bench. Historians still disagree, mutters a nearby man, about whether the Vikings believed in a literal afterlife or just wanted to keep their dead comfortable just in case. Now you nod, it's easier to believe in both. Though the oxen snort, a child sneezes. Someone hands out dried apple slices. Then slowly everyone walks back. No parade, no spectacle. Just the quiet dignity of people who buried someone before and know they'll do it again. Back at the village, the longhouse fire is already lit. And tonight the cradle is still. But for once it doesn't sway. The air the next morning feels thinner. Not colder, just quieter. Like the village has inhaled deeply but hasn't exhaled yet. You stand near the edge of the fields looking out toward the fjord. The water glints like polished stone, unmoved by the rituals of the land. A couple of boats rock gently, tied to crooked stakes. Gulls drift overhead, shrieking like prophets no one invited. You're joined by a woman with wind-ruined hair and the sharp gaze of someone who's seen every kind of weather, inside and out. Today, she says, is wash day. You nod respectfully. She leads you to a wide, flat rock near a bend in the stream, where several women have already begun their battle with dirt, stains, and the laws of linen. Clothes are soaked, scrubbed with soap made from ash and fat, then beaten against stone like they owe money. Here's your historical fact for the morning. The Viking soap was basic but effective. Made from animal fat and lye created from ashes, it could clean clothes, hair, and dishes alike. It had a strong, earthy scent and sometimes doubled as shampoo. Cleanliness, despite stereotypes, mattered a lot. You're handed a tunic. Wet, heavy, you slap it against the rock. It makes a satisfying noise, you do it again. Therapeutic. Nearby, a girl is brushing her hair with a bone comb and muttering about lice. A friend picks through her scalp with practiced affection. That's your odd little fact. Combs were among the most common grave goods in Viking burials. Not swords, not shields. Combs. Grooming mattered more than people give them credit for. Vikings wanted to look decent even in the afterlife. A basket of herbs sits nearby: lavender, thyme, dried mint. They're crushed into the wash water for scent. You sniff, it helps. You ask about the cradle. It's a casual question, but the woman washing beside you glances upward anyway, as if expecting to see it swinging from the clouds. She sighs, he'll sleep beside the fire tonight. It's too quiet up there. You understand. The grief in this village isn't loud. It's woven into routine, into the bread, into the way someone brushes a baby's cheek and then goes back to stitching a tunic. No one wears black, but the sadness is everywhere. And still life resumes. By you're hanging damp tunics on a line made of twisted horsehair. The wind pulls them like sails. You watch them flap. A boy runs by, chasing a goose with the moral clarity of someone who's been personally offended by poultry. You hear laughter again, not forced, just cautious. You return to the longhouse later. It smells like baking and wet wool. Someone left a bundle of herbs by the fire drying for later. Someone else is making candles, tallow melted in clay cups, poured slowly like quiet promises. A woman walks in carrying a woven basket. Inside, a newborn goat. Early, she says, but healthy. She sets it down beside the fire. The goat bleats once and falls asleep. You look at the cradle, it's been pushed slightly off-center, as if to make room. And historians still wonder, says a voice beside you, whether cradles in the roof were also meant to protect children from spirits. You glance up. The elder smiles, or maybe just mice. You both chuckle. Then she looks at you with something close to softness. Tomorrow, she says, you should see the hill. You tilt your head. And there's a circle up there, old stones. No one remembers why, but we still go. She walks away before you can answer. You watch the cradle a moment longer. It's still. But the goat is dreaming. And then the baby near the hearth shifts in his sleep. Wrapped in wool, watched by firelight, protected by a village that holds grief and joy with the same careful hands. You lie back. The sky darkens. And another story begins, silently inside the beams. You wake early, earlier than the village. The sky is still smeared with sleep dark blue at the top, lightening into gray with the promise of gold somewhere on the other side. You step out of the longhouse quietly, careful not to disturb the baby, the goat, or the woman softly singing to her bread dough. The ground crunches underfoot. Frost again, always frost. It hugs the earth like an old friend who never quite leaves. You walk without direction but with purpose. It takes only a few minutes to find the trail. It's not marked by signs or stones, just a suggestion, a path remembered more by footsteps than maps. You follow it. Upward. Each step is slow but steady. The incline isn't steep, but the wind changes as you rise. It gains teeth, not sharp, just insistent. The kind that curls behind your ears and whispers old secrets through your cloak. The trees thin, replaced by open sky. Your breath fogs ahead of you, trying to scout the hilltop before your body arrives. And then there it is. The stone circle. To 12 upright slabs, uneven in height, arranged in a lopsided ring, some lean. One has toppled entirely, now half buried in moss and indifference. Lichen paints each one in quiet greens and grays. You step inside the circle. It doesn't feel magical, not exactly. But it does feel different. The wind stops whispering, the air flattens. Sound becomes subdued as if the world has stepped back to let you think. Here's your historical center for this moment. Many Viking-era stone circles were built long before the Vikings themselves. The Norse inherited these from earlier people Bronze Age, sometimes older, but they kept using them, not always knowing why. Sometimes for ceremonies, sometimes for burial, sometimes just because they were there and people instinctively gather around old stones. You run your hand along one. It's rough, cold, and slightly damp. You wonder how many hands have done the same. Children, elders, grievers, lovers, storytellers. You sit on a flat stone. The view is wide. Below, the village is small, long houses like wooden runes, smoke curling upward in threads. Beyond it, the fjord, calm and still. And beyond that, the sea, always the sea. You hear footsteps behind you. The elder woman from yesterday. She doesn't greet you, just joins you on the stone. She sits like the stone has been waiting for her. We used to bring offerings here, she says. Before we stopped, then we started again, then forgot why. You nod. She hands you a small piece of bread wrapped in cloth. Rituals don't need reasons, she says, only rhythm. Here's your strange detail for today. Some Viking families brought small offerings to ancient stone sites not out of belief but obligation. A piece of bread, a cup of ale, a lock of hair. These weren't necessarily religious. They were like checking in on a very old neighbor, out of politeness, out of hope. You eat the bread, it's dry but good. The woman reaches into her pouch and pulls out a carved bone pendant. She sets it gently on the stone beside her. For my brother, she says, gone to the east, might still be alive, but I like him better in memory. You both chuckle. So silence settles again, but not the kind that demands to be filled. She eventually rises. Stay as long as you like. And just like that, you're alone again. You lie down on the stone, face to the sky. Clouds drift overhead, slow, lazy nomads. One looks like a goat, one looks like a boat, one just looks like time. Historians still argue, you whisper to no one, about whether the stone circles had astronomical alignment or just aesthetic convenience. You smile. You like both. Eventually you rise, pat your knees, brush off the frost. You turn once more before leaving the circle. And though the stones don't speak, you feel understood. Back down the hill, the village has awakened. And somewhere in the longhouse rafters, the cradle has begun to sway again. By the time you return to the village, breakfast has moved on to second breakfast. A pot of porridge bubbles lazily over the fire. Someone has added berries. Someone else has stirred in what might be fish. You opt for the berries. People nod at you as you pass. No one asks where you've been. They assume the stones called to you like they sometimes do. No explanation needed, just a smile and a warm bowl. You sit on a bench outside the longhouse. The sun is trying to show up. It peeks through clouds, then hides again. You respect its ambivalence. Across the clearing, a game has begun. Children with sticks and a leather-wrapped ball. Shouting, tripping, gleeful declarations of rules that keep changing depending on who's losing. You watch with the calm detachment of someone who knows better than to interfere with chaos, disguised as recreation. Here's your historical core. The Viking children played games, many of which mimicked adult skills. Ball games, balance contests, wooden swordplay, not just fun but training. And sometimes, frankly, just a reason to yell in winter. Two older children argue over whether the goat counts as a player. The goat bleats indifferently and walks away. The game resumes. A woman beside you chuckles. That one, she says, pointing to a girl with a braided rope belt. She'll be a traitor. You glance over. The girl's already bartering 2 game points in exchange for a bite of someone's dried apple. Bold move. I was like that, the woman says. Traveled far, traded salt for silk once. Didn't get the better deal, but I liked the colors. You look at her more closely now, neck adorned with small beads, fingers calloused in places that suggest maps and rowing. You ask her where she went. South, she says, way south, beyond the rivers, past the flat lands, where the people wear coins on their sleeves and never stop talking. She smiles. You lean forward, eager for more. Here's your cultural detail. Many Viking women traveled, traded, and negotiated deals across continents. Some served as merchants. Some accompanied expeditions. Some went alone. Their stories were rarely written down, but their jewelry showed up in graves far from home. She hands you a small coin. It's thin bent, not from here. I found it in my bread this morning, she grins. Either a sign or someone dropped their savings in the dough again. You laugh. The children's game ends in a dramatic collapse of bodies and declarations of victory from all sides. No one really knows who won. That's part of the charm. Historians still debate, the woman muses, whether Viking games had formal rules or were more like seasonal theater. You watch as the players stumble back to their homes, sweaty and victorious regardless of score. So someone rings a bell made from a cow's horn. You follow the sound to the community shed, where tools are kept, repaired, borrowed, never quite returned. Today, it's time for maintenance. Axes sharpened, hose repaired, sleds patched. Everything from door hinges to soup ladles gets a turn. You help where you can, holding things, fetching nails, listening to arguments about whether a dull blade is cursed or just neglected. A man hands you a small bronze brooch. Fix the pin, he says, or give it a blessing. You squint at it. You attempt both. Here's your odd little notes. The Vikings often treated damaged items as spiritually disrupted, not just broken. Fixing something meant restoring its balance, especially if it had been handed down. Objects carried weight, not just function but memory. You hand the brooch back, the pin works, mostly. He smiles and mutters something that sounds like a blessing, but might also be a recipe for soup. The sun finally breaks through, just a little. Just enough. You step back, stretch, and breathe. The air smells like wood shavings, wool grease, and the faint sweetness of coming spring. Back at the longhouse, someone plays a slow tune on the bone flute. It floats out the door like a ribbon. You follow it. And inside, the cradle sways once. Then stills. Then sways again. The baby is dreaming. And so are you. But you're wide awake. For now, the snow melts quietly. Not all at once, not dramatically. Just a soft surrender, edges thinning, patches dissolving into mud, water trickling beneath what once was frozen certainty. You step out into a village that smells slightly. Hopeful, damp soil, thawed moss, something like promise if you breathe it right. Though the children are barefoot again. Not because it's warm enough, but because they've decided it is. A woman hauls a bucket of water from a half-freed stream, whistling tunelessly between her teeth. You notice she's wrapped colored thread around her braids. Not decorative, preparatory. You ask someone what's happening. Almost, they say. They don't elaborate, you're expected to know. Or at least to pretend like you do until it reveals itself. The village hums with a different tempo now. Not busier, just more layered, like background music turning into a chorus. Fires are hotter. Bread is. People pause mid-task and stare up at the sky like they're waiting for an old friend to arrive. You help repair a fence that's clearly losing its will to stand. The posts lean like exhausted dancers. A man beside you adjusts his grip on a hammer and says, "If the gods don't come, the goats will." You're not sure which is more threatening. Here's your quiet historical fact. The Norse celebrated many seasonal festivals, often tied to agriculture, fertility, and gods like Freya or Odin. The raven's offering was one such lesser-known spring rite, a mix of sacrifice, feasting, and poetry, part farewell to winter, part flirtation with the sun. You help drag a long table into the center of the clearing. It's rough-hewn, wobbling, clearly older than anyone here. Someone throws a woven cloth over it, bright red with uneven stitching. Nearby, 3 women are dyeing wool with crushed berries. Their hands are stained purple, their faces smudged with spring-like anticipation. A baby watches from a basket, chewing on a spoon. Here's your cultural tidbit for the day. Dyeing wool for spring festivals was both art and ritual. Certain colors were believed to encourage certain outcomes. Red for strength, yellow for health, blue for protection. Though sometimes the choice was more practical, whatever didn't rot over winter. You carry bundles of kindling to the ceremonial fire pit. It hasn't been lit since the midwinter solstice, and it looks insulted by the neglect. A boy pokes it with a stick, then declares himself ready for priesthood. Someone smears your cheeks with a dab of berry paste. For warmth, they say. You ask if that's a metaphor. They shrug, maybe. Later, you sit on a log and watch the colors deepen as the sun drops toward the trees. The firewood is arranged. The meat has been quietly doubled. A goat is wearing flowers, not voluntarily. Historians still debate, says the man sharpening a flute beside you, whether was religious or just an excuse to drink outdoors without being scolded. You nod, either way the goat looks magnificent. The sky turns golden, then pink, then something between. And just as the last light fades, the first drumbeat begins. So slow, low, like a heartbeat that's been resting all winter. You close your eyes and let the sound carry you into evening. By nightfall, the village has transformed. Torches line the clearing, flickering with more enthusiasm than precision. The large table is now buried under bowls of stew, heaps of bread, and exactly 3 smoked fish that someone insists were definitely caught this week. The fire pit has been lit, and the flames reach high, eager, crackling, playful. Sparks drift upward like tiny messages, heading toward stars that seem to have come closer just to watch. You take your place among the crowd. No seats, no assignments, just space. You sit beside the trader woman from before who smells like pine and confidence. She passes you a cup of warm mead. "Until you're first," she says. You clink a cup. The elder woman, yes, the one who led you to the stone circle steps forward near the fire. She's draped in a cloak the color of old blood, with strands of wool tied to her wrists like she's anchoring herself to every thread of the village. She begins with a story. No introduction, no welcomes. Just words. It's about a raven who stole the sun, swallowed it, then forgot why. About a farmer who bargained with frost and lost. About a woman who carried spring in her apron and dropped it, scattering green across the land. It's not history. It's a truth that Jesus sent. And everyone listens like it matters more than memory. Here's your gentle historical anchor. The storytelling at seasonal festivals served multiple purposes: entertainment, preservation, invocation. Not all were sagas. Many were symbolic, poetic, mythological explanations of nature's cycles, with characters as familiar as family. Though the children sit at the front, faces smudged with ash and excitement. One of them holds the goat's leash, which feels like a dangerous power dynamic. Someone begins a chant, then a second voice joins, then many. It's not melodic in the modern sense, but it vibrates your ribs. Low harmonies, circular phrases, ancient vowels that don't belong to any one tongue. As a man rises with a carved horn and speaks of spring rains, of pregnant sheep, of seeds sleeping in the dark, he raises the horn toward the fire. People murmur, the horn is passed around. When it reaches you, you lift it awkwardly, whisper a wish you won't say what, then hand it to the next person. Here's your obscure ritual note. During spring rites, offerings were sometimes symbolic: a handful of oats, a poem, a whispered prayer into fire. Sacrifices could be small and invisible, a hope given up, a secret admitted, a story finally told. You lean back and feel the warmth on your face. Though the fire dances, though the drums return, someone begins to sing a drinking song that's clearly older than the language itself. And people rise to dance. Not gracefully, not uniformly, but joyfully. Are you to join them? Your feet in mud, your arms uncertain, your laughter catching in your throat. The stars spin above, the fire spins below. And for a moment you forget the word history, because this isn't past, it's now, and it's breathing. While later you sit again. Mead sloshes in your cup. A child climbs into someone's lap and falls asleep mid-sentence. The goat eats half a flower crown. And historians still argue, says the old woman beside you, about whether ever really existed. Maybe it didn't. She sips her drink. But then again, we're doing it now, aren't we? You smile. The cradle in the longhouse is empty tonight. The baby sleeps by the fire, swaddled in light and melody. A man stumbles past, humming a nonsense tune about rivers and bread. A girl gives you a purple berry and says, "Keep this till morning, it's lucky." You accepted. You sit until the fire dies. Until the drumbeat fades. Until the only sound left is breaths. Yours. The villages. And the earth beneath it all thawings, wakings, whisperings. Not yet summer, but close. The morning after doesn't begin so much as unfold, like a blanket being slowly pulled back from a dreaming body. You step outside into a quiet that feels recently used. The air still holds the scent of firewood and laughter. The grass is flattened where feet danced. Bits of flower crowns lay in the mud like fallen constellations. A crow watches you from the top of a fence post. Its head tilts, not judgmental, just curious. You wave, it doesn't return the gesture. The village is slow today, not lazy, just reflective. You walk past the communal hearth. Someone's already boiled water, tea made from birch bark and dried berries. You take a sip. It tastes like if warm water had a wise uncle. People speak softly, no shouting, no hammering, even the goats seem contemplative. You follow a path toward the fjord. Your boots crunch over thawed dirt and soft moss. The trees are starting to bud, not dramatically, just small hopeful signs on otherwise grumpy branches. You reach the edge of the water. As it stretches out, calm and mirror-like, the color of old pewter. A couple of boats bob lazily against their moorings. One looks like it hasn't been untied since the last decent argument. You sit on a rock shaped like a question mark. A woman approaches. She's carrying something wrapped in wool. You recognize her, one of the weavers, the one who never sings but always hums. She sits beside you and unwraps a small bundle. Inside is a spindle, some faded thread, and a parchment map. Not a real map. More like a drawing of feelings disguised as directions. She shows you the parchment, a coastline, some cliffs, a symbol of a tree, nothing labeled. "Oh, this," she says, "is a place we forgot." Well, you ask her what she means. She smiles. We remember it sometimes when the fire is low and someone tells a certain story. But then we forget again. It's just over that ridge. She points east. You look where she points. It doesn't look like anything special. Just more land, more trees, more sky. Here's your historical anchor. Norse communities often had memory places, sacred hills, standing stones, or groves that weren't written down but passed orally. Over generations, some were lost, only recalled in fragments during stories or songs. A place could disappear simply because no one walked to it anymore. So the woman wraps up the map. Well, wanted to come, she asks. You do. You walk east together. No path, just the suggestion of one. You pass through thickets of young pine, over slippery stone outcrops, across the bones of a dried-up stream. The wind picks up, but not to scold, just to remind you it's still paying attention. Eventually, you come to a low hill covered in moss. At the top, a stone. Just one. Rounded, covered in lichen. Barely rising above the earth like it's trying to forget it once mattered. You both stand in silence. Then the woman kneels, touches the stone, and begins to hum, the same hum she uses when weaving. Low, repetitive, safe. You kneeled too. It feels right. Here's your strange tale. Some Norse families whispered to stones, not prayers, just updates. As if the stone had once held something important and deserved to know how things were going. These were quiet traditions, neither holy nor superstitious, just human. The woman finishes the hum, presses her hand flat to the stone and whispers, "We're still here." Then she stands, nods once, and walks away. You stay behind a moment longer. You do the same. We're still here. The stone says nothing. But the wind leaves you alone on the walk back. Which feels like an answer. When you return to the village, the world feels closer. Not smaller, just more knit together. As if every tree, every face, every tool on every wall knows something it didn't know yesterday. The longhouse is quiet again. People are resting, mending, stretching wool, preparing to move back into their usual rhythm. You enter and find a spot beside the hearth. Someone hands you a cup of broth. You're not sure what's in it, but it tastes like something you once missed. A boy plays nearby, arranging carved wooden animals into a kind of battle. A goat versus a chicken. The goat wins, as expected. Across the room, a man is shaping antlers into buttons. Another is scraping bark to make thread. A girl sits at his feet, humming a lullaby you don't know, but feel like you remember. You ask the elder woman if there's anything to do. She thinks for a moment. Yes, she says, let's go upstairs. You didn't know the longhouse had an upstairs. But she takes you to the far wall, where a narrow ladder leads up into a storage loft beneath the thatch. It smells of hay, smoke, and secrets. Well, mind your head, she says, which is good advice in any century. Up here, the roof beams arch like the ribs of a great sleeping beast. Bundles hang from hooks, herbs, tools, small bags, forgotten socks. A tiny window lets in just enough light to reveal dust dancing in slow spirals. This, she says, gesturing to a large chest, is the archive. You open it. It's inside bundles of cloth, carved stones, bones marked with runes, dolls made of straw, and a few folded scraps of vellum. Not a library, a memory box. She lifts out a rolled wool bundle, opens it. And inside are carved tablets, wooden about the size of your hand, etched with symbols and scratched lines. Message tablets, she says, before ink, before paper, just enough room to say what mattered most. So she hands you one. As it reads, he came back, we forgave him. The goat did not. You laugh, she does too. Here's your historical detail. Wooden runic tablets were used in the Viking world to send messages, record trades, or mark events. Some were formal, others casual, like notes passed in class, except with axes and livestock involved. You help her sort through the chest. One tablet says, the soup was wrong, but no one died. Another, berries found, not sure if edible, will report soon or not at all. You both laugh more. Then you find one that makes her go still. She takes it carefully. On it just 3 runes. It was hers, she says softly. My mother. She left after the spring flood. We never found her. But this showed up tied to a bundle of herbs 2 years later. You ask what the runes means. She traces them slowly with her finger. I still love, still here, still watching. You both sit with that for a while. Not crying, just remembering together. Here's your odd cultural notes. In some Norse communities, runes were used as emotional shorthand, abbreviated feelings carved into wood and shared like protective charms. A way to say what couldn't be said out loud. Sometimes the meaning was known only to 2 people. So she puts the tablet back very gently. Then stands, stretches, and says, you've earned soup. You both descend the ladder, returning to the living part of the house. People greet her with quiet nods. You notice that everyone treats her with the same respect they give the fire, essential, constant, occasionally crackling. Later that evening, someone starts singing again. The tune is familiar now, woven through your days like a thread. You hum along it. The cradle above sways gently. The baby is asleep. The goat has forgiven no one. The wind outside brushes against the house like a hand checking for warmth. You're no longer a visitor. You're part of the memory now. And the memory is alive. There are places people mention with a pause. Not a warning, not exactly an invitation either. Today, someone mentions one of those places. You're helping a boy carry a basket of kindling when he says, almost in passing, "There's a cave up north. We don't go there much." You ask why. He shrugs like the question weighs more than he expected. Just, we don't. You leave it there for now. Later, near the longhouse, you bring it up again, this time to the elder woman's. She doesn't shrug, she smiles. "It's not haunted if that's what you mean," she says. "It's quiet, that's all, sometimes too quiet." You ask where it is. "Follow the creek until it disappears," she says. "The hill will be watching you before you even see it." So you go. No one stops you, but two people hand you things before you leave. A bit of dried meat and a small smooth stone with a spiral etched into it. You ask what they're for. They both say you'll know. You walk north, past the stream that babbles louder than it needs to, past patches of frost clinging to shadowed soil, past the place where the trees lean slightly inward as if eavesdropping. Eventually, the sound of the creek fades. That's when you know you're close. You reach the hill, modest, covered in moss and old patience. At its base, hidden behind a curtain of alder branches, is the entrance. Just a dark mouth, not grand, not theatrical, but present. You duck ends. Though the temperature drops instantly, the air is still, not stale, just undisturbed, like it's been holding its breath for a long time. You walk slowly, hand trailing the stone wall. It's cool, damp, curved like the inside of a. Farther in, the cave widens into a small chamber. And you stop. Because on the walls there are markings, scratched, faded, but there. A bird's eyes swirls, a boat with no sail, a hand missing a finger. You sit on a rock that feels like it belongs to you for now. Here's your historical moment. While the Vikings weren't known for cave art, they inherited landscapes marked by much older peoples, Neolithic, Bronze Age. These caves often held hybrid symbolism added to over generations. Layered histories told in scratches, not scrolls. You pull out the smooth spiral stone. It fits perfectly in your palm. You whisper without meaning to, "I'm listening." And the cave doesn't echo, it absorbs. Here's your strange cultural detail. Some Norse communities believed certain caves ate sound. These weren't feared, they were revered. Places to confess, mourn, or tell secrets you didn't want returned, not spiritual, just practical emotional storage. You place your spiral stone beside the others. Yes, you see them now, little offerings left in a quiet cluster. No names, no inscriptions, just presence. Historians still debate, you murmur, whether these caves were sacred or simply personal. You decide it's the same thing. You stay a while, breathing slowly, matching the pace of the stones. Eventually, you stand. And as you leave, the silence follows you. Not in a heavy way. In a held way, like being carried just for a while. While you emerge into light, while the stream begins speaking again, though the trees resume their soft gossip. And when you return to the village, someone hands you a cup of warm cider and says nothing at all. Well, which is perfect. Because you are full of the kind of silence that deserves to stay whole. Well, the next morning you wake to clouds. The thick, white-gray, gentle but determined. They sit low across the village like a blanket someone forgot to fold. Though the air smells of rain that hasn't quite decided to arrive. Inside the longhouse, people are moving slowly, not because they're tired, but because this is a thinking day. No hunting, no fence mending, just things that can be done by hand and heart, spinning wool, repairing shoes, teaching children which plants don't kill you. You sit near the hearth, mending a small tear in your cloak. Badly, a girl offers to help. She sews with the confidence of someone who's seen many torn things and fixed most of them. While you thank her, she says everything wants to be whole. Then runs off to feed the goat, who continues to hold grudges. The day passes like a slow river. You help prepare dried herbs for storage, sorting, labeling, debating whether the weird-smelling one is helpful or just hopeful. Here's your historical thread. The Viking households often kept herb collections not in one place but dispersed, hanging from beams, tucked into boxes, buried in ash for drying. Herbal knowledge was domestic magic, a kind of wisdom that wore an apron and smelled like thyme. You find yourself reading a collection of etched wooden slats, local proverbs passed down like stew recipes. One reads, the axe forgets, but the tree remembers. Another, a good fire tells no lies. You ask who writes them. No one, a man says, or everyone's. He points to a small rack near the hearth. Add one if you like, but it must be true even if it's wrong. You think for a while. Then carve, even silence needs to be fed. You place it on the rack. The elder woman notices later and smiles, but says nothing. Here's your cultural detail. Some communities kept communal wisdom boards, collections of sayings, jokes, or quiet truths, not sacred, just useful. A living book made of wood and memory. When one broke, it was burned with the next fire and its spirit hopefully absorbed. By midday, the clouds finally let go. A soft rain. Not punishing, just thorough. You stand under the eaves of the longhouse watching droplets gather, then leap like tiny thoughts from the roof's edge. People don't run from the rain here. They absorb it. A woman spins wool under a dripping tree. A child builds a miniature house from wet stones and tiny twigs. The man who plays the bone flute does so now, from a covered stoop, the tune as slow as the clouds themselves. You sit beside him. He doesn't speak, just plays. You close your eyes, and the day becomes music. Soft, wet, perfectly forgettable in the best way. Historians still argue, the flutist says later, whether these days were wasted. He looks up. I say they were saved. You nod. You watch the village slow together. You eat warm root stew. You pet the goat briefly before it remembers who you are. And when night comes, you fall asleep early. Not because you're tired, but because this is a place where resting means remembering who you are. Above, the cradle sways again. The baby is awake, watching shadows flicker on the beams. You watch too, and feel what the cave gave you. The gift of silence that still listens, and of memory that waits quietly for you to return. Rain lingers. It drips from rooftops like a song that doesn't know when to end. It slides lazily down the beams, pools in boot prints, hums against the wooden walls. You wake to the sound of it, soft, persistent, almost affectionate. Someone's boiling roots again. You can smell them before you open your eyes. The fragrance is earthy, sharp, and oddly comforting, like the scent of a stubborn relative who always wears the same jacket. You sit up slowly, no urgency. The baby in the ceiling cradle is already awake, eyes wide, fists clutching nothing and everything. The goat is asleep by the fire. A child is using its back as a footstool. No one finds this strange. You're handed a cup of broth by a boy no older than 10. He says nothing, just watches until you take a sip, then nods and walks away like a small, satisfied landlord. Later that morning, you're invited to a different corner of the village, one you haven't seen before. It's a tent. Not a longhouse, not a shed. A circular hide-and wood structure at the edge of the trees, just beyond the drying racks and the laundry line where someone has hung a shirt that reads in runes, "No storms, only seasoning." Inside the tent, it's warm. Dim, the air smells like crushed mint and something gently burning. A woman sits cross-legged, surrounded by bits of ink-stained bone, dyed thread, and a shallow bowl of ash. She's the storyteller. But not with words. With skin. Here's your historical anchor. The Norse practiced forms of tattooing, simple, symbolic, often spiritual. Some were decorative, others told stories. Traders carried marks of their journeys. Warriors carried prayers. Women marked births, deaths, and seasons on their arms like living ledgers. She gestures for you to sit. You do. She pulls a piece of charred bone from a leather wrap and begins to tap it gently against her own wrist, tracing an unfinished line that loops like a wave and ends in a single dot. You ask what it means. She smiles. It's when my son walked out in the rain without fear for the first time. You say nothing. She shows you her other arm. A spiral. A shape that looks suspiciously like a goat, and a lightning bolt sharing a moment. So she nods toward your hand. I want to remember something. You pause. Then extend your palm. You don't choose a symbol. She does. A simple ring. A dark, small, just below your thumb. She blows on it to dry the ink. I'm for holding something you didn't let go of, she says. You thank her. She nods. No payment, no ceremony. Just a new layer of self you didn't know you needed. Here's your cultural detail. Some tattoos weren't meant to be explained. They were felt, given, received, a way to say this happened without reliving it out loud. Certain marks could only be given by certain people, elder weavers, or in rare cases, children. You leave the tent feeling heavier and lighter at the same time. The rain has eased. Mist curls low like the village is wearing a scarf. As you return, someone is tapping spoons on wooden bowls. Not for cooking, for weather. You raise an eyebrow. A girl grins and says it keeps the clouds soft. You don't question it. You find a spoon and join in. Here's your strange tradition. In some regions, tapping metal during light rain was thought to influence the sky's mood. A way of reminding the storm not to get ideas. It wasn't magic, just manners, like saying thank you, that's enough now. You tap. The baby giggles. The goat sneezes. And then somewhere above the thatch, the clouds begin to thin. Later that night, by firelight, someone points to your hand and says, you're part of the record now. You nod. And for the first time in days, you feel less like a guest and more like something growing. You wake to laughter. Not the loud kind, not even the belly-deep kind. Just a trickle of amusement rolling through the longhouse like smoke from a sweet fire. You sit up. A small crowd has gathered around the hearth, pointing at something on the floor. You shuffle closer, rubbing your eyes. It's a plank, one that's shifted just slightly, swollen from yesterday's rain. Someone it up, not with force, just curiosity. And under it, on paper, the real paper. Folded, faded, tucked in wax cloths. The letters. The elder woman holds it now, fingers trembling, not with age but memories. She doesn't read it aloud. She just says it's hers. No one asks who. But you know it's the same her who left 3 runes behind. Still love, still here, still watching. The letter isn't long, no epic farewell, just a short note scrawled in uneven, panicked strokes. I couldn't wait for spring. The water kept coming. I thought the door would open, it didn't. If you find this, I miss you. Tell the boy the goat was my fault. Tell the cradle I tried. No one speaks for a while. Even the baby goes quiet. The woman folds it again, kisses the paper once, and slips it into her pocket. She was never good at doors, someone whispers. A few people chuckle gently. You sit back on your heels. Here's your historical core. Not all Viking communication was carved in stone or sung around fires. Paper was rare but known. Traders brought it from east and south. Messages were sometimes hidden under floors, inside walls, even sewn into cloaks. Messages that didn't need to be read immediately, just eventually. You help relay the floorboard. Not to cover the memory, to hold it properly. Later that day, people start giving things to the cradle. A strip of wool. A wooden spoon. A stone carved with a heart so uneven it almost breaks. No ceremony. Just objects placed quietly inside. You ask why. Someone shrugs. It remembers things we forget. Here's your cultural gem. Some Norse households kept witness cradles not always for bobbies. Sometimes used to collect offerings after grief or joy. A vessel for transition. A symbolic witness to what wasn't said aloud. By afternoon, the rain is fully gone. The sky is scrubbed and blue like it's apologizing. Children chase each other across the clearing with wild shrieks. A man teaches a girl how to mend a net. Someone sings a song about bread and betrayal cheerfully. The woman with the letter sits by the stream. She's not crying, but she's not crying either. You sit beside her and quiet. Eventually, she says, you think you let go of someone, but sometimes they circle back and tap your shoulder from beneath the floor. You nod. The sun is lower now. The light catches the new ink on your hand. It glows faintly. You touch the cradle's edge before bed. It creaks. The baby stirs, eyes half open, then drifts again. You think of the letter. Of the marks in the cave. Of the words on the wooden slats. Of spoons and rain and the sound of things being remembered. And you fall asleep with the feeling that something once lost just found its way home. Not loudly, or just enough. The spring doesn't arrive like a parade. It arrives like breath. It's like waking up and noticing your hands no longer ache from the cold. Like realizing the chickens have wandered farther from the coop. Like hearing a song from the trees you're not sure is from birds or wind pretending to sing. The village smells different now. Still smoky, still woolly. But beneath that, something green is rising. You walk past the longhouse and catch it in the corners of your vision, color where there wasn't before. Tiny yellow blooms squeezing through cracks, purple buds curling around fence posts. Someone's planted nothing, and yet everything is growing. You ask the weaver about it. She shrugs. We don't plant that garden, it just shows up. You ask where it comes from. She taps her temple, then the soil. So some things start in here, then end up down there. So you walk to the garden that plants itself. It lives behind the storyteller's tent now, nestled in a dip where rainwater lingers longest. It wasn't there 2 weeks ago. Now it's everything. Violets, clover, something pink that smells like sleep. My children call it the whisper patch. Though they play beside it but never in it. A boy once tried to uproot one of the flowers. It wilted in his hand before he made it back to the path. He apologized. The flower somehow reappeared the next morning. Here's your historical truth. Many Norse communities believed in volunteer growth plants that returned annually on their own were thought to carry memory, blessing, or ancestral will. These weren't weeds. They were messages. You didn't cultivate them. You listened to them. You crouch beside the patch and see something unusual. Not a flower. A bit of cloth. You pulled gently. It's white, or rather it used to be. Stained now with soil and something more permanent, time maybe. You unfold it slowly. Oh, it's a piece of a dress. You bring it to the elders. She stares for a moment, then touches it. A wedding dress, she whispers. She doesn't say whose. Only says it never made it to the altar. You wait. She continues. She left before the ceremony, not in anger, in grief. The man she was meant to marry, he never came back from sea. So she walked to the ridge and sat there for 3 days, then buried the dress. You ask why. And she said no, one should wear love that was waiting for a ghost. Here's your curious cultural gem. In some Norse villages, wedding garments were reused, passed down, repurposed. But in rare cases, when a union was deeply mourned or disrupted, the dress was buried, gifted to the earth, considered too charged with unfinished emotion to pass on. You touch the fabric. It's soft. Like it still remembers what it was meant to become. You ask what should be done with it. The elder thinks, then says nothing, and then places it gently beside the cradle, beneath the child's sleeping feet. A woman begins sewing again, quietly that same night. You notice she uses white thread for the first time in weeks. Later, the goats escape their pen and no one stops them. They wander toward the whisper patch and lie down beside it like guardians. You watch the flowers bend slightly toward them. The cradle sways. And for the first time since the festival, you dream of someone else's memory. It's not yours. But it fits. The next morning, you wake to birds that sound far too confident. They chirp like they've survived something difficult and are ready to gloat about it. The village is brighter. Not just in light, but in tone. A girl sings while sweeping. A man sharpens tools while whistling badly but with commitment. Someone baking again, and the bread has berries. You stretch and feel the warmth in your bones. It's the kind of warmth that doesn't ask for attention. It just shows up and waits for you to notice. So today, you're helping clear the old paths. As it winds behind the woodpile and curves gently toward a part of the forest that used to be a grazing trail. No one's walked it in months. Branches have crept in. Moss has decided it owns the place. You carry a small axe, a rope, and a sense that something wants to be found. And as you walk, you talk with the boy who once gave you broths. He says there's a stone house out here. You ask who lives in it. No one, he says, but someone used to. You clear branches together, he hums. You match his rhythm. Eventually, the path opens. There it is. A low, wide structure made of stacked stones, half sunken into the hill. No roof, no door, just walls thick enough to keep a storm out and a secret in. Inside, it's quiet. You sit on the stone bench that runs along one side. The boy pulls out a folded paper. You ask where he got it. Floorboard, he says, same day we found the letter. It's a list. Not names. Just items. The one comb. 2 spoons. A small mirror. Dried lavenders. A bone needle. 3 runes, hope, grief, stillness. You recognize the handwritings. The woman who left. The one who buried her dress. She must lived here, you say. The boy nods. He adds or hid here, same thing. Here's your historical truth. Many Norse households included small outbuildings, work sheds, birthing huts, grief shelters. Places where solitude wasn't punishment but preservation. A person could live in the village but retreat here for days, even weeks, and be left alone without question. You light a candle someone tucked into the wall. It casts long shadows. The boy leaves a spoon. You leave a silence. Later, back in the village, the weaver wraps a small bundle and walks it to the whisper patch. She buries it gently. You don't ask what it was. But the flowers seem grateful. That evening, the children invent a new game. They whisper wishes into small clay cups, cover them with moss, and bury them by moonlight. You ask why. They say the flowers are listening. You sit by the fire with the elder. You tell her about the stone house. She nods. We forget places until they're ready to be remembered. She adds the house was hers. She built it with a man who didn't return. She finished it alone, then used it when she needed the world to be quiet. You ask if it's okay that you found it. She places a hand on yours. You weren't the first, but maybe you were the right one this time. Later that night, you lie awake beneath the rafters, listening to the rain that never came. The cradle doesn't move. The baby is still. But you feel something shift. In the village, in the whisper patch, in you, and you realize sometimes things don't return. They simply wait for someone to remember where they were. You wake up not from sound, but from a feeling. A feeling like something has settled. Or maybe unsettled, but in a good way, like the soil shifting before a seed finally bursts through. The longhouse is quiet but not still. Someone is painting. You can smell it before you even sit up. Pine ash, egg yolk, crushed berries, old colors. Natural ones, the kind you can't buy in a shop because they're made of memory. You follow the scent. It leads to the west wall of the longhouse, previously bare, save for a few hung tools and drying herbs. Now it has become something else. A canvas. A record. A return. At first glance, it's abstract. Spirals, waves, small dots, a long black curve that almost looks like a cradle. But if you look longer, and of course you do, you start to see a pattern. The storyteller is there, brush in hand, barefoot, humming that low rhythm she always hums when something matters. You ask what she's painting. And everything we've almost forgotten, she says. You ask why now. She dips her brush in a dark red made from beets and crushed iron. Because the cradle is ready. You look up. Sure enough, the cradle isn't just rocking, it's swaying. Steady, sure, rhythmic. Someone is singing to the baby. Not a lullaby. A name is a song. Not spoken. Painted. Here's your historical truth. Some Norse villages used wall songs, visual records painted once per generation on communal walls. They weren't maps or stories exactly, but layered symbols representing births, deaths, jokes, blessings, and decisions. They were not read. They were known. You sit and watch the wall take shape. A black circle becomes the sun. A line of spirals becomes a memory path. 3 dots in a row become the 3 runes you remember: hope, grief, stillness. You offer to help. The storyteller hands you a bowl of pale blue pigment and says, add what you remember most clearly. But don't write it, shape it. You stare at the blank corner she gestures toward. You think. Then paint a small wave with a spoon in its center. She says it, nods. And she says, the rain whisperer. That becomes your title for the rest of the day. As everyone now calls you rain whisperer, even the goat bleats a little more respectfully. That evening, someone adds something new to the wall. A handprint. Tiny. Still damp from warm milk and ink. The babies. It's placed just below the cradle, where the arc of painted light seems to cradle it again. And underneath, in quiet dark browns. You ask who chose the name. Everyone answers at once. Her mother did. His uncle dreamed it. I whispered it into the clay cup. It came from the cave. And the cradle told us, here's your name lore for today. Some Norse communities believed names should arrive, not be chosen. They were gifts from dreams, stories, or sudden knowing. Until then, a child was simply called the small one or the keeper. Once a name was spoken aloud and confirmed with a sign like a laugh or a bird landing nearby, it became permanent. And the baby. She laughs. That nothing. That everything. The goat sneezes again. A bird lands on the beam above the cradles. It stays. Just long enough. It means ancestors' legacy. But it sounds like a sigh you didn't know you were holding finally released into the world. The next day, the world leans forward slightly. You feel it. Like a story is about to begin again. You spend the morning helping clean the paint bowls. The river now has a soft sheen of color trailing through it, and the children swear the trout are smiling more. People walk differently today, looser, taller, like they've remembered something physical and important. Even the elder woman walks with less ache. She meets you at the cradle and says, "You should come with me." You don't ask where. You just follow. She leads you to a storage hut you've never entered before. And inside, the air is sharp with cedar and salt. She kneels, moves a few baskets, and reveals a tightly wrapped bundle. It's not old, it's careful. She opens it slowly, reverently. Inside, the cloak, red, soft, woven from at least 4 winters' worth of wool. His, she says, the one who never returned, the one who was supposed to wear it on their joining day. You touch it. It's heavy, like it's been waiting to warm someone for decades. We were going to burn it, she says, but no one could do it, so it stayed. You ask what she wants to do with it now. She hands it to you. Give it to someone who will wear it with new joy. So you do. You find the woman who once mourned. The one who hums to the cradle, who hasn't spoken of love in a long time. You hand her the cloak. She doesn't cry. She just pulls it around her shoulders, stands a little, and says, "I think I'll walk to the whisper patch." Which is exactly right. That evening, the goats return from wherever they always escape to. Their bells are softer, their eyes less judgmental. Someone's baked and left a slice on the cradle's edge. Someone else has braided flowers into the rafter above's head. And you find yourself painting again. Not on the walls, on a flat piece of bark. A swirl, a wave, a spoon, and a handprint. You don't sign it. You tuck it under the cradle. A message not for now. but for someone who'll need it later. Here's your closing truth for the day. Many things in the Viking world were left unsaid, not because they didn't matter, but because they were being saved. For the right moment, the right hand, the right remembering. That night, the village is quiet in the way a song is quiet after the last note has faded, but before you remember to clap. You lie down. The fire is low. The baby sleeps. The cradle no longer sways. It rests. Like you. Like everyone's. You wake to the sound of hooves. Not hurried, not thundering. Just deliberate, soft thumps against damp earth, as if the rider has been on the road long enough to forget how to rush. The village notices. Our heads turn. The tools pause mid-task. Even the goat looks mildly curious. You step out into a morning threaded with mist, where sunlight filters through like it's still deciding whether to commit. The rider approaches slowly from the east trail, a lean figure wrapped in a patched cloak, horse leaner still, both carrying the kind of exhaustion only distance can explain. He dismounts without a word. People don't crowd, they gather. The elder steps forward. She says the rider's name before he speaks it. He nods, unslings a bundle from the saddle, and offers it like a gift and apology at once. I brought stories, he says, and a bit of salt. The children perk up at the mention of salt, the adults at the stories. He's taken to the longhouse, given broth, a blanket, and a moment. Later, you sit beside him near the fire, listening. He's not dramatic. He tells tales the way a quiet person sharpens a blade, carefully, with intent, letting the shape reveal itself. He's been south, far south, past the hills where snow tastes like stone, past the river that sings backward, past the wide sea that eats ships for breakfast. And out there, he says there's a serpent. The children gasp. He smiles gently. Not a beast, not a threat. Just a very large thing that sometimes rises from the sea, breathes once, then disappears for months. You ask if it has a name. He shrugs. I called it silence, because it moved like forgetting. Here's your historical thread. Sea serpents appeared in Norse mythology often, but not always as monsters. Some were omens, some guardians, some just symbols of the vast unknown. Sailors told stories not to scare, but to soften the edges of mystery. He unwraps a pouch and hands you a smooth stone etched with a spiral. You've seen spirals before, but not like this. This one seems to move even when it doesn't. You ask what it means. I found it beside a whale bone, he says, washed ashore where no one lives. He looks at the fire. I thought it was for someone, maybe it's you. You take it. Feel its weight. You place it near cradle. The baby doesn't look, but the cradle sways. A little. Just once. As if something has arrived. Or been recognized. Later tells one more tale. About a village like this one that no longer exists. Burned, flooded, forgotten, he doesn't say. But he says this. They built their last fire with all the things they couldn't carry. You ask what survived, and he shrugs again. Memory, that's all that ever does. Here's your curious cultural gem. Some Norse coastal communities practiced farewell fires burning keepsakes before migration. Not wasteful, symbolic. A way of warming the next place with the ashes of the last. That night sleeps near the door as if guarding something. Or preparing to leave again. But for now, he is here. And the sea far away exhales. The next day begins like a whisper. You walk within your arms. She's heavier now, not by weight, by presence. Like she knows her name and is trying it on from the inside. Her eyes follow things with purpose. Her fingers curl around threads, spoons your sleeve. You walk to the fjord. The path there feels longer today, not from distance, from detail. The trees seem taller, the sky wider, the birds louder but not unkind. You sit on a low stone at the water's edge. Rests in your lap, wide-eyed and serious. You tell her the serpent story. She doesn't laugh, she listens. When you describe the serpent's breath, her fingers twitch. You say, some things rise just to remind us the world is still deep. She coos, or maybe it's a question. You answer anyway. Yes, that includes you. You stay there a while. Later, when you return, something changed in the village. They're not broken. They're not wrong. Just rearranged. The wall painting has grown. While you were gone, someone added a boat. It's small, drawn with and rusty. And inside it a cradle. Floating. Someone else added a wave curling beside it. Not threatening. Just a present. Here's your cultural detail. Some Viking families painted journey motifs for children, not for travel, but for growth. A baby in a boat meant may you drift safely. A wave beside it meant even in storms you are held. You help repaint part of the lower wall. A flower's petals had faded in the morning light. You outline it again, this time adding a tiny spiral at its center. Someone sees and says, that's new. You say it's older than it looks. The elder comes to you with a bundle wrapped in soft fabric. She places it in your hands. Inside, the red wedding cloak. You blink. But she. And she gave it to, the elder says, through you. You open it. And inside the folds is something else. The letters. Folded twice, tucked deep in the lining. written in the same hand as the one from beneath the floor. Now this one is shorter. And if she ever laughs without fear, the cloak is hers. Or if not, keep it for the goats. Or you laugh, all burps, and everyone agrees it counts. Or you wrap her in the cloak. It's too big, of course, but it drapes beautifully, like she's being held by someone you'll never meet but already love. Historians still wonder, someone says from the door, if legacies are written in ink or action. You look down at, snug in her crimson shell, holding the air like it belongs to her. You say both. That evening, the clouds break open and the sky turns gold. The village gathers by the water. Not for a ceremony, or just to stand together. As the tide rises, someone hums. Tosses his spiral stone into the fjord. It skips once, twice, then sinks. No splash, only silence. Then just before you turn away, a ripple breaks the water farther out. Long, curved, then gone. No one gasps. No one speaks. But everyone saw it. Yawns. And you whisper to her. See, some stories live under everything, and some rise just to say hello. She smiles, not at you, as at the world. You don't plan for it. You just wake up, stretch, and feel something in the day shift. It's not the wind. It's not the sun. She stands. Then not for long. Not steadily. But she stands, 2 fists clenched, eyes wide, legs doing the brave trembling that means this might be possible. And then, of course, she sits back down with all the grace of a sack of grain toppling over. As everyone in the longhouse claps anyway. She blinks at the attention, sneezes once, and returns to chewing on the edge of a spoon. No one pushes her to do it again. The first time was enough. The weaver starts singing a song older than her fingers. The storyteller begins painting a pair of feet onto the wall. A baby's feet 1 step apart, painted in black ash. And someone from outside says, "It's time." At first you think they mean for lunch. But no. They mean the boat. The small one. The one used for quiet afternoons and drift fishing. They've hollowed it, clined it, lined it with fur. As at the bow, a new symbol painted in crushed flowers and pine soot. A spiral nested inside a cradle. It's a time force. Here's your historical core. In some Norse coastal communities, bobbies were introduced to the sea with a ritual, not a baptism, not a test, just a blessing. The baby would be carried in a boat a short distance into the fjord. It marked their steps into the world on water before land. A reminder that life was never fully dry. You carry her. Wrapped in the red cloak, spoon in hand like a sailor holding her compass. The village walks with you to the shore. No chants, no torches. Just everyone walking like this has happened 100 times and still feels new. Rose. You sit in the center of the boat in your lap. She watches the water like it's trying to tell her something in a language she already knows. When the boat is far enough from shore, just far enough that the village looks like a memory, you help her stand. One foot, then the other. You hold her arms, but barely. She doesn't wobble this time. She looks down at the water, then up at the sky, and laughs. The sound is tiny, but it echoes off the fjord like a bell no one knew was waiting to be rung. Here's your strange cultural gem. As if a child laughed during there, it was believed they would never drown, not because they couldn't, but because the sea would remember them as joy. It wouldn't take back what it had once made smile. Laughs again. Then sits. And begins to clap with one hand and the spoon. You rustle back. The village greets her with open arms and a bowl of soft berries someone mashed just for this moment. The cradle is brought outside. She doesn't climb back in. She walks around it, touches it. Then places her spoon inside it like an offering. You ask her if she's ready to leave it behind. She doesn't answer, but she walks away. One step, then another, and everyone follows. But at a distance. Because these are her first steps. And the village wants her to know. They are hers. Later that evening, as the light softens into something the color of old honey, someone notices something strange in the whisper patch. Not bad. Just unexpected. A single stem, taller than the others. As its petals are blue, not pale blue, not sky blue, but deep blue. This is the kind of blue you usually only see in dreams where you fly too high and forget how clouds work. No one planted it. No one has seen it before. But everyone agrees it's beautiful. You walk to it on your hip and crouch low. You don't touch it. You just watch it. And as you do, someone hands you a folded scrap of parchment, found tucked into a wooden spoon in the storage hut. You open it. It reads, "If she laughs on the water and the flower opens, it means the story isn't ending. It's becoming part of something else." No signature. Just a spiral. You glance around. No one seems surprised. Someone brings a small dish and places it beside the blue flower. Inside, honey and a sliver of the red cloak. You ask what it's for. To thank it for arriving, they say. Here's your cultural echo. Is in Norse oral custom, Plants that bloomed spontaneously after grief or joy were often believed to be response blooms, a sign that the world had acknowledged what had happened and replied. Not with words, but with growth. The children gather stones and place them in a ring around the flower. Not to protect it, to honor its decision to be here. That night, the wall painting grows again. Someone adds a boat surrounded by flowers. Someone else paints a hand releasing a spoon into a wave. Someone you're not sure who paints the blue flower above it all, with roots reaching down into the painted cradle. It looks like a star that never needed the sky. And historians still debate, the elder says as you lie by the fire later, curled beside you, whether these rituals were really for the children or for us. You say nothing, but your silence agrees. The wind changes that night. Softer, warmer. The goats sleep early. The fire lasts longer. And before sleep comes, you look around the long house. And at the stories on the walls, the child beside you, the empty cradle that now holds nothing but a spoon and a single violet petal. And you think, this is not a village frozen in time. It's a village that lets time move through it. Like a wave, like a cradle, like a laugh that still echoes somewhere across the fjord. Some mornings feel like a farewell. Not because anyone says goodbye, not because anyone leaves, but because the light changes just enough to remind you that things do. This morning is like that. You wake to a stillness that isn't empty but settled. She sleeps longer, her hands are curled in soft fists, her breath slow and sure. The goat doesn't wake her, even it knows today is shaped like a pause. You rise and step outside. Someone packing a bag. You see him from a distance. The quiet traveler, the salt bringer, the serpent speaker. He's looping twine around a satchel, as if tying a memory shut. You approach. He doesn't look surprised. I was never meant to stay long, he says. You sit beside him. He adjusts the strap. The thing about roads is, if you walk them too long in one place, they become walls. You nod. But something doesn't sit right. Not in you, not in the village. You look around. No one is trying to stop him. But no one is saying goodbye either. Not properly. As if everyone feels the same thing. That something's unfinished. So you ask him, what haven't you told us yet? He stares out toward the fjord. Then says, there's a carving in the hearthstone. I made it when I was 15, before I left the first time. No one ever found it. You blink. The hearth, you repeat. He nods beneath the stone where the ash settles deepest. It's not a message, just something I needed to leave. While you walk together. Though the longhouse is quiet, a pot simmers, someone hums. A child paints a stick with leftover pigment and declares it magical. Though you kneel at the hearths. Though the elder watches, says nothing. While you lift the iron pans. Brush away the warm ash. And there it is. The carving. A simple, shallow, but clear. A spiral flanked by two symbols. While one is a spoon, while the other is a footprint. While you touch it, is it's warm not from the fire, but from having waited. Here's your historical truth. It wasn't uncommon for young Norse villagers to carve private symbols into shared spaces, silent messages left in beams, under beds, in hearths, not declarations, just gentle proofs that they had been there, that they had felt something, that they were more than passing faces. Alex hails. Though the elder kneels beside you. She doesn't speak. So she just lays her hand on the carving. Then on the shoulder. And then she says, now you can leave. He doesn't cry. But his eyes hold the soft sheen of someone who has just returned to himself. He stands. You follow him to the edge of the trees. He carries no map, only the spiral stone you gave him back, looped onto a string around his wrist. Is in the field, playing with a wooden bird on a string. She doesn't wave, but she watches. As if she understands. Some people don't stay because they don't love you. They live because they do. You walk back in silence. And as you pass the whisper patch, you see the blue flower is taller now. Not by much, but just enough. The wind shifts later that day. Not suddenly. Not sharply. Just decidedly. It blows from the west, and the smoke from the hearth bends low, curling toward the doorway instead of up through the beams. The elder notices. She doesn't say much. Just nods once and tells someone to check the old beams. A boy scampers up into the rafters. You follow with your eyes. As after a few minutes he calls down, there's something here. Pause. Not birds. You climbs the ladder with him. Is at the very top of the longhouse, tucked into the eaves like a secret swallowed by time, you find a bundle. Wrapped in hide. Laced shut. Dusty, yes, but not forgotten, just waiting. You carry it down. As everyone gathers, not crowded, just present. Though the elder unties it. Is inside a folded tunic, a ribbon, a braid of hair, dried and delicate. And wrapped in a faded piece of wool, a carving board. All painted, not freshly, long ago. But the colors are still soft, still warm. Cradles, a low wave, a love boat, and a cracked moons. You recognize the spiral, but not the moons. The elder does. She touches it gently. This belonged to my sister. You didn't know she had once. Her name was never spoken again, she says, not out of anger but ache. The carving board is placed by the hearths, a place of heat and remembrances. Here's your historical detail. In rare cases, Norse families would retire the names of loved ones, especially if the loss was too sharp. Their items were hidden, not buried, so that one day when it didn't hurt as much, they could be unwrapped, not to relive, just to include. You ask what her sister's name was. The elder looks at who is now toddling toward the cradle, spoon in hand. Then says she was called to live. You don't speak for a while. Neither does the room. The painting on the wall is expanded that afternoon. The cracked moon is added in the top corners. Its light painted downward, toward the baby's feet. That night climbs into the cradle herself, not because she's tired, but because she wants to. She places the spoon beside her, then slowly holds out her hand toward the carving board by the fire. You place it in her lap. She touches the cradle painted on it, then laughs. Soft, sleepy, absolute. Historians still argue, the elder whispers later, about whether children carry memory from before they're born. You look at the sleeping child in the cradle, the cracked moon on the board, the blue flower in the field, and say they don't carry it, they become it. The cradle sways on its own. Just once, just enough, and the night exhales, as if it too has finally remembered something it was afraid it had lost. Let me know when you're ready to continue with sections 33 and 34. In the next part, a letter from a different century drifts ashore. The cradle is lifted into the air for the last time and speaks her first word, though it's not the one anyone expected. It arrives without ceremony. Just a gust of wind, a bit of driftwood, and a folded thing caught in the reeds near the fjord. You don't find it. The goat does. Or at least the goat snorts at it with enough aggression that a nearby boy investigates. He brings it to the longhouse, holding it like a story he's not sure he's allowed to read. It's a letter, but not like the others. This one isn't scrawled on wax cloth or stitched into tunics or slipped into floorboards. It's on thick parchment, sealed in wax with an unfamiliar mark, something like a fish curled around a crescent moon. The ink is faded, but it's still legible. And the language, it isn't from here. But it became this language. The elder squints, reads it slowly. and then reads it aloud. To the one who lives here now. If the cradle is still swinging, then I have not failed. I buried this letter in a tin box by the sea. The box is gone. That's how I know the sea remembered. If the baby sleeps safely, then this is not the end of the story. Just the part with more quiet. I never held her, but I named her anyway. I whispered it to the fire and to the moon and to the place beneath the whisper patch. Her name was... If she laughs, then everything matters. If she sings, then everything remains. No signature. Just a drawing. The spiral. And below it a spoon. Someone gasps. You don't know who. Someone else kneels beside the cradle, where is reaching for the spoon again, not her current spoon but the old one, the first one. The one no one thought she remembered. She grabs it. Bangs it once. Then rests it against her cheek. Not a game, but some memory. You ask the elder who wrote the letters. She shakes her head. Then shrugs. I think it's from the future, she says. You laugh. But you believe her. Here's your cultural truths. Norse villagers believed the sea could return things from other times, not just other places. Messages tossed into the waves were not necessarily lost. They were delayed. The sea was not a border. It was a messenger that worked on its own clock. You hang the letter by the hearth, beside the carving board, beside the painted moon. So someone adds a new line to the wall paintings. Not a wave this time. Ripples. Moving outward. Touching everything. Though that night no one speaks much. But everyone lingers near the fires. As if waiting. Not for something to happen, but for something that already did to arrive. The next day is windless. The fjord lies flat as hammered glass. Even the birds seem unsure of what to say. You wake early, as you always do now. And you find her already standing. By the cradle. Her hand on the rims. Not inside it. Just resting. Like someone saying thank you to a friend who doesn't speak. She looks at you. Points. You carry the cradle outside. Not to use it. To lift it. And everyone follows. They don't ask why. They know. You carry it through the field past the whisper patch, which is blooming wildly now, like a dozen secret gardens colliding toward the hill with the old stone circle. The wind stays low. Listening. And at the top of the hill, you set the cradle down in the center of the stones. It doesn't rock. It rests. Someone begins to hum. Then sing. Then others join in. No lyrics. Just tones, low layered, woven like wool. It walks the circle. Once, twice, then stops beside the cradle. And everyone goes silent. She looks up at the sky. Then down at her spoon. Then at the cradle. She opens her mouth and says her first word. They're not mamas. They're not goats. They're not spoon. She says, there. And points. Not at the cradles. But at the sky. Then the earth. Then the people. Then the whisper patch. Then the painted wall. Then the flower. There. A word of placement. A word of remembrance. A word that means this, all of it belongs. Here's your closing truth for today. In some Old Norse households, the first word of a child was not documented with pride, but with reverence, especially if it was a word of direction. Children who spoke of location, of there or here or home, were believed to carry old souls, not reincarnated remembering. Though the elder weeps softly, though then says she's right. You leave the cradle in the circle. No one says goodbye. No one builds a fence around it. It's not a monument. It's a comma. And everyone walks back slowly, not looking behind them. Except for, she looks back 3 times. Then nods, as if she's written something down in her head. And plans to keep it safe. That night the longhouse is quiet, but not empty. The wall glows faintly in the firelight. And you add one final mark before bed. The hand. Yours. And beside it. Another's. The smaller, smeared slightly from movement, but unmistakably, says. Under it, someone writes a single rune. You don't see who, but you see what it says. Remains. And outside, the cradle sits in the stone circle. Alone. But not forgotten. Never that. You wake to the sound of quiet applause. Not loud. Not real. But inside your chest, something clapping softly for having made it this far. Is still asleep, her arm draped over a small fur doll someone carved for her. She's growing longer like a branch in spring. You wonder if children expand in their sleep, not just in size, but in possibility. The morning is all golden spill and warm wood. You step outside. The cradle is gone. You know where it is. Still in the stone circle. But you can't see it anymore. It's fogged over. Misted like something dreamed once, then shelved. You think that feels right. At the whisper patch, the blue flower has dropped one petal. Just one. as it rests lightly on a nearby rock, as if even parting must be kind. So you pick it up. I'll place it in your pouch. No, not to keep it, just to give it a little more journey. That afternoon, the storyteller paints a door on the walls. Not to open this, just to imagine. On it is a spiral. And beside the spiral, a small bird in flight holding a spoon in its beak. While you sit near the fire, beside you, she's started mimicking voices now. The little hums, croaky impressions of the elder, guttural goat noises, a decent attempt at your laugh. So someone hands her a tiny stone carved in the shape of a cradle. So she places it on her head. And everyone laughs. So she does not. It's not a joke to her. It's a crown. Here's your final fact of the day. In some Norse, children were thought to be chosen, not born by the household itself. If a child used symbolic objects without being taught their meanings, the villagers believed the house had whispered the stories directly into the child's bones. Later that evening, a storm rolls in, but soft. Just low thunder and sleepy rain, the kind that makes every roof sound like a lullaby. So stares out the window and says one more word. Again, not at you. At the sky. As if asking for another round of clouds, another wave of wind, another echo of everything she's been given. You whisper it will. And that night, long after she sleeps, you take the carving board, the painting tools, and a soft cloth, and paint one last thing on the walls. Not big, not detailed, just this. A hand holding another's hand. No face. No names. Just the act. And beneath it, in a color you had to mix from crushed petals and river clay. A spiral. Because some stories don't end. They just sit down beside you, warm your hands, and keep watch. And now, if you're still here, if your eyes are drifting, if your breathing has grown deeper, if the cradle of this story has gently rocked you towards sleep, then let us drift with you just a little longer. The village remains. Not frozen, not sacred, just a present. It grows quietly around the things it's already loved. The whisper patch returns each spring with more petals than memory. The wall painting never stays finished. New hands add new marks, sometimes deliberate, sometimes by accident. A smudge becomes a bird. A fingerprint becomes a tree. A laugh becomes a light above a cradle. The sea keeps its own calendar. Sometimes it brings driftwood. Sometimes salt. Sometimes answers no one asked for. But it never forgets. And once a year, under a crescent moon, the villagers walk to the stone circle. They don't speak. They just sit near the cradle, now half covered in moss, the wood silvered by age and hum. Not songs with words. Just long, low notes, like something remembered without being said. Older now lights them. She carries a new child in her arms. No, not hers, but one she chose to carry. She places the child in the cradle. No, not to sleep, till to begin. Well, the spiral has been carved again into the base. Fresh, sharp, and as the stars open above them, softly, slowly, like eyes easing into dreams, you hear one last sound. The cradle creaks, not from wind, but from memory. And the wind, gentle now, carries that sound down the hill, across the field, into your own quiet breath. So rest now. The fire's low. The story's folded. Your name, like hers, is safe here. Held in the beams. Painted in the corners. Tucked into the hush. You did not need to stay awake to remember. You only had to arrive. And now sleep. Sleep well and long. There will be more stories. And they will wait for you. Always.